At the intersection of data science, innovation, technology, and sports lies a new and unique development. One that's shaping the future of India's sporting ambitions and also helping the nation become a global artificial intelligence hub. On this episode of Decoding Dialogues, we bring you an exclusive conversation with Joy Bhattacharya, Director General, Federation of Indian Fantasy Sports, on a special topic, Tech Meets Sports, a deep dive into the FIFS Sports Data Gameathon, which is a cutting-edge technology-driven sports AI challenge, and also on the future of sports tech and fan engagement. Here Joy Bhattacharya shares with us more on the collaboration with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, how India's youth is combining their love for sports with technology, and how fan engagement is the key to the growth of the sports economy. Joy, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, what was the underlying objective or purpose behind planning the Federation of Indian Fantasy Sports Data Gameathon?
Interesting question. So, the basic idea of the Gameathon was very simple. There are a lot of very, very bright students and technologists who actually put teams in to play fantasy sport, because it's a game of skill where you've got to figure out tactics, you've got to figure out algorithms, you've got to figure out the best way to do it. And we said that, can we find a way to celebrate the smartest, the best of the best in our country who play this sport? And that's what we tried to do. What we tried to do was bring together the top technical institutes in the country, have them use AI and machine learning to make programs to find the best way possible to win. And what did they look at? They looked at historical data, they looked at player performances, they looked at weather conditions, they looked at match reports, and on the basis of that, they actually put in their teams. So for us, it's a celebration of the smartest and brightest kids in our country with the two passions that are matching, which is their passion for technology and their passion for cricket or fantasy sport.
What are the students ultimately building?
So the students are building predictive models for games. That means if India, say, is playing Pakistan in a match, they are creating a predictive model. That means they are not deciding that A player or B player should be there. They're designing a program, and that program is saying basis previous records, basis current performances, basis match conditions, basis what the situation is, who won the toss. These are the kind of things that you should be looking out for, and that program actually takes the decisions. So it's programming, it's AI, it's machine learning, and therefore it's far more sophisticated than just you and me sitting and saying this player is better or this player is worse. And I think that is what we are trying to bring out, that there's so much skill that goes into it and so much technology, most of us are not even aware.
Now, Joy, you of course recently piloted Gameathon 1.0. How did it go? What was the response that you received? And any learnings or insights that you'd perhaps like to take the opportunity to share?
So it went absolutely fantastically. We got more than 150 teams from 34 top technical institutes around the countries, including the IITs, the IIITs. All of them took part. And I think what was amazing for us was on very short notice, so many of them came up with competitive teams. And our biggest learning was the fact that there were some of these teams were so enthusiastic about it. They had professors also who were giving them advice. We had proper professor from the US, Dr. Mishra, one of the most respected people who's worked with Rahul Dravid. He also came into this. He advised the students on what kind of modeling they can do. So there's so much that has gone into it. It was absolutely amazing. And I think the biggest thing about all of this is the level of performance that you saw from the students, the kind of detailing that they did for their work, that was absolutely amazing. And for us, that was the biggest takeaway, that how much these kids are into it and how sophisticated these programs are for students.
Our heartiest congratulations. You and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting have, of course, partnered on the Gameathon. So what does this collaboration stand for, in your view?
Absolutely, it's wonderful having the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting on board. It all started with the first Gameathon, and I think we were talking to them then, and then I think they themselves actually saw, the kind of response we got for Gameathon 1, and they saw that what level the students were involved in this. And then they became a part of this, and it's so wonderful to have them, because what happens to these kids? There's prize money involved. The 25 lakh prize money is going to be given among these teams. But more than prize money, can you imagine standing in Waves, which is, a forum for the entire country for information and broadcasting, and A, being felicitated, B, being talking about the kind of models that you have made. And that kind of recognition, for their CVs, for their futures, it's absolutely fantastic. So we are delighted with this collaboration, because it also shows us how our commitment towards furthering technology in sport is also being backed by the MIB.
You've launched Gameathon 2.0. What differentiated it from the first edition, and what's the scale that you anticipate this platform will take?
So we launched Gameathon 2.0 because the moment we started Gameathon 1, the actual response actually shook us. The kind of responses, the number of teams that came. Now Gameathon 1 had only one limitation. The Champions Trophy is a small tournament. There aren't too many games. But now Gameathon 2 is on the biggest platform of all, the Indian Cricket League. It's a lot of matches, more than 70 matches. And the beauty of this, what we also have is, because the teams need to actually refine their models, the first 29 games, the teams have a chance to test their models and see if it's working, and the scoring only starts from the 30th match. So this is a much bigger platform. There are many more matches, therefore the sophistication of the models is much more. And thirdly, you have a situation where you can actually test your models. So, the kind of responses we've got, I can safely tell you, we were talking about 150 last time. We've already crossed more than 3.5 times that number. And the teams are only increasing up, so I'm just completely blown away by the response.
You've interacted and engaged with countless students across the country. You've reviewed their strategy papers. So how have they ultimately used technology and combined that with sports knowledge to create a meaningful output?
So I'll go into very small examples, which is that, some of the teams, the way that they looked at, say, spinners on particular pitches versus fast bowlers on these pitches. So when a bowler is bowling and how a bowler is bowling is very important. So they managed to refine their strategies. And when spinners started bowling in the first 10 overs towards the end of the tournament, they also refined their strategies to reflect that. So there's so much thought that is going into it, and there's so much programming that's going into it, that we were absolutely amazed at the responsiveness. So what happens with the program is, one of the greatest advantages of machine learning is that you don't make one model and say that, okay, this is my model, is going to survive. Your program is constantly updating itself. Machine learning, the basic of machine learning is that. And I think that's what you're seeing. The models are iterating all the time. And the way they iterate their models, that sophistication of their iteration is what is absolutely amazing.
And why are initiatives like Gameathon critical to India's larger artificial intelligence ambitions?
It's a very simple thing. AI, ML, these are concepts that seem very distant to us. We don't understand it. AI is a theoretical concept. ML, machine learning, is a theoretical concept. But when somebody has a chance to apply it in something that other people understand, like the game of cricket, then it suddenly becomes real to you. So what you're trying to do is, A, you're trying to engage students by combining two passions, AI and machine learning and love for cricket. But B is, this is the kind of thing that also inspires so many other children, so many other students to say, wow, cricket, I can do this, I can design programs with this, and to, further my cricket knowledge, I want to do this. So I'm not just, cricket is being used as a vehicle, as a tool to overall basically deepen your understanding, to deepen your interest and love for technology. And I think in this country now, technology is such an important part of our future. It's really important that we get in as many kids as possible. And I think this Gameathon is a perfect example of how it's to be done. Currently, the entire sports technology sector is supposed to grow at about 12% annually. These are huge numbers we are talking about. And what happens is, the core of sports technology, I have to understand it, think of it like mobile phones were in this country 15 years back. At one time there were no mobile phones, but then mobile phones reached everywhere and communication became easy. Similarly, the next wave that you're seeing is sporting technology through apps, through games. It's reaching places around the country, and what you're getting out there is the ability now to reach small towns, to reach villages, and for them to be able to engage with top quality coaches, with top quality understanding, to understand the kind of drills they can do and everything they can do. Sports tech enables sport in this country. We are too large a country to do it by ourselves. We need sports tech as an enabler, and I think that's what sports tech is doing.
How can sports tech ultimately help the larger sports development agenda accelerate and mature?
I think there are 2-3 very crucial parts to this, okay? The first part of it is fan engagement, because today technology is central to fan engagement in terms of how to get a fan into the ground, how to get him involved. And in fact, fantasy sport is one of the largest parts of fan engagement. So I think fan engagement is very important, because once a fan feels a part of it, then only can he really participate in the process. So fan engagement is the first and most important part of it. The second part of it is the actual technology. So today, for example, in remote places around the country, you can have remote coaching. That means you can have a situation where using technology, using mobile technology, using apps, you can actually reach coaching to the smallest parts of the country. And as part of India's ambitions of being a global sporting superpower, this is the kind of technology we need, which will enable people around the country. And the third is, of course, using top athletes, where there's so much of biomechanics involved. There's so many other factors involved, which today, in terms of how a player runs, how his biomechanics are, how much strength he has, how much he can jump, all these technologies helping him. So sports tech is the funnel, it's the engine room of the development of sport in this country today.
How is fantasy sports contributing towards the growth of sports tech nationwide?
So fantasy sport has had a huge part to play. Firstly, a major chunk, more than half of the fan engagement part of India today, platforms in India today, is the most fan engagement comes from fantasy sport, because all of us dream, we want to be a selector. We think that our opinions are more important than other people's. Our opinions are as good as any of the selectors out there. And I think that's very important to it. So you are bringing people into the sport. And once you bring people into the sport, there are so many ways in which they get involved. So not only are they watching the game, they are comparing their expertise, their intelligence with other people, they are chatting with them, they are discussing them. So their involvement in the game is deeper and deeper. Secondly, as you'll be aware, fantasy sport is a very, very large chunk of also the sponsorship part of Indian sport. And a lot of the money that comes into fantasy sport goes back again in terms of sponsorship. So fantasy is a very large and an irreplaceable part of our current sporting ecosystem.
How does fantasy sports increase sporting engagement?
The simple thing, how do you get engaged in sport? The simple way you get engaged in sport is when you have some interest in the result. That's the only way it happens. Now that's a simple thing if you're just doing an India match. But tomorrow it's not just about supporting a country, it's about my having an opinion as well. So for example, if two teams are playing in the Indian Cricket League, I may say that I think this player in these conditions will play very, very well. And some other player, say Rohit Sharma, will be playing very, very well in Mumbai. So my understanding and my knowledge, that is something that fantasy sport rewards. And the reward is not just monetary, because monetary is a very small part of it. The reward is that understanding that, look, my intelligence and my understanding of the game is good. I can discuss this and talk about this to 5 other people, and myself, I understand that my stand is vindicated. I really understand the sport. So what fan engagement fantasy sport does, it gives you a much deeper, it's a much more nuanced and deeper engagement with sport.
How might, in your view, may sports tech ultimately empower grassroots level athletes and players?
Currently, the entire sports technology sector is supposed to grow at about 12% annually. These are huge numbers we are talking about. And what happens is, the core of sports technology, I have to understand it, think of it like mobile phones were in this country 15 years back. At one time there were no mobile phones, but then mobile phones reached everywhere and communication became easy. Similarly, the next wave that you're seeing is sporting technology through apps, through games. It's reaching places around the country. And what you're getting out there is the ability now to reach small towns, to reach villages, and for them to be able to engage with top quality coaches, with top quality understanding, to understand the kind of drills they can do and everything they can do. Sports tech enables sport in this country. We are too large a country to do it by ourselves. We need sports tech as an enabler, and I think that's what sports tech is doing.
What role will sports tech play in helping realize that objective of the national sports policy of making India a sporting superpower?
I think it's really important. It's a really great question you've asked, because we're looking at maybe 2036. We're putting in a serious bid for this 2036 Olympics, and for us to have an Olympic bid, it's not just a question of building buildings or stadiums. It's a question of creating a situation where we have athletes that compete. And I think the biggest thing is, what are the two things you need to do to get top athletes? You need to increase the base. The only way to increase the base is to have more and more children participate and be exposed to quality learning. Sports tech does that for you because it uses your mobile phone, it uses your laptop as an enabler. So firstly, the base of the number of athletes that you deal with and the number of athletes that you're measuring increases. And then sports tech helps in giving that edge to these top athletes. That means from this larger funnel, when the top athletes emerge, sports tech in terms of the way their biomechanics, how fast they run, how fast they jump, how fast they throw, all this can be measured, improved, and technology helps. So it's both increasing the base of Indian sport, getting more people in, and also sharpening the top edge of Indian sport. And I think it operates at both levels.
Thank you, Joy, for sharing your thoughts and your insights. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing more about the role that technology is playing in shaping the future of sports. These conversations are a critical reminder of how innovation can truly open new doors. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.